Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we want to look at how HTTPs are work, but I want to use the Gorilla framework as I always use that for my HTTPs. That helps to make HTTPs easier than how they are. First, we want to install that use it, go get this command line, and after that I need to make our router max.router in here, and in the end, after handling our function, we can listen on each port we want, maybe 88. And also we need to import HTTP I think, and for our handler just write some text for handler. For now, I just want to write simple thing in here, and I describe that how we cover that. Put handler in here, and let's debug that. Now if I run, as you can see, starting on 88, let's just turn off and this is the root of our handler, the hello handler. If I go to the 1818, you can see Gorilla. But for the response, we need to set the body as JSON. For example, if I have a class like let's to import our entities. My model is something like user, and just simple fighter like here. If I want to print my model, first I need to unmarshalized that. First I need to use the JSON, and in the JSON with encoder we can parse that like that. But the problem is, let's first use the JSON encoding and in the end just write encoders or encoder model in here. I described that later, how handle error. Just println error or if I restart my code, as you can see we have the JSON result, but the problem is my network response, if it's shown in here, that's the text. It have to be a text, but I need that to be a JSON, a real JSON. For that purpose we add this line to make our code. This is my previous. Let's to open another one to show what's the difference. First in here first I write that as JSON, and in the next line it say to set the status to OK. If I don't set a status to OK, for example it's be a server error, it show an error for the client or front end. So the status OK say that response is 2000. As you can check that in here. We check them later together, the error of HTTPs. Let's run that again, and if I restart that, it don't show anything, but if I run with the Postman, you can see the different. My body is the JSON, and if I don't set them and run the code again, as you can see in here, the response is OK. 2000 is default, so we don't need this line of code. But the problem is the data is a text, and the client can understand that because the header is not set. The header is the text plain UTF-8, but in that example, after setting client, you can say the content type is application JSON. So always remember that to set the JSON content type. The GPT recommend that to set the content type like that for recommend the middleware or write like a response, JSON response. So I just use that middleware in here because all of our examples are JSON. We just use that line of middleware, and make sure to put these middlewares on your folder with name middlewares. I just put it on the code now, but if you want to do these steps, put your middleware on the middleware folders. We have a JSON middleware in here, and of course we don't need this line anymore because it's set the JSON. As you can see, again we have an application JSON here. Okay, alright guys. In next step, in previous tutorial I have made one console web, and in this I have some method like get all, get by ID. I just copy them in our new HTTP. For handler, let's make a handlers directory, and inside that I want to make one handler, maybe I don't know, main handler, or let me to think. I put the same fighters handler because I want to keep the list of the fighters, and another I make one type with name of fighter handler. It's extract, and maybe you ask why I do that in here. Of course we have to add our package handlers because in the Go we have a different approach from the other language, and later on I want to add repositories and service in this class. So I make one extract, and for example for find new handler, new fighters handler, return new fighter handler, and the first function I want to, oh my god, the AI is going ahead of me. Get fighters is the first function I want to make. So it's just a list of the fighters. For the beginning, let's on this step we paste read all user in our new classes in here, and of course we have to add a import our OS. And after reading our fighters, I described them how I parse that in the previous videos. We just read a string with name fighters. It's on a one directory before this directory. So fighter.json, we read this file in here, and if we don't have any error, we parse that on the fighters. So in here now we have an array of fighters, and I keep my fighters in here. Always forget that. JSON, encoding JSON. Let's copy all of them. And in here, let's say our FH, that's represent as fighter handler, is equal to new fighter handler. Return that, and the fighters equal to fighters. In a get fighters, for now we just return list of fighters. Make sure later on I make a repository for these and service, and we read them from database. But for now I just want to make it or read it only from array. In the architect section I describe all of them. What are the services, what are the repositories, what the difference between them, and get handler. In my main function, as you can see in here, we encode our model and print handler, write data in here. So I just copy and paste that method in here. Instead of return, we don't have a return in here. Instead of return our model, we just encode our model. We need the writer and request. And return. Okay, what we said in here, we said we have a handler. We get our HTTP writer and request. What's inside the writer? The writer have a different with what is inside. Again, request, it's a what client pass to you, and you can read some data like headers and query string from that, while in a writer that's the response. the action you pass to the user. So you can send the user a message, you can pass the error. We have a write, we have a, as you can see, write header, but I don't know why write header we have a status code. In my main Go inside in here we use first make one comment fighter handlers, fighter handler, new fighter handler, and the my projects, and say handlers. Handlers dot new fighter handler, fighter handler get fighters. When my user call API fighters, let's put list in the front of that. That means when our user go to API handler list, we go inside this function. The reason behind why making new class for or new structure for fighter handler instead of passing this directly is later on I want to pass some parameters to a new fighter handler, and of course in the future I want to make this to inject be injectable. We want to use a Google wire and such those things. If I get tests from my project, that's great. We have an error at the beginning. It can't find the read file JSON. So maybe if I say fighter JSON is have to okay, I feel that's okay now. Even for a file we have to make a repository. That's if you watch this video, never do that in a real project. For your files, always make sure to have a different repositories, because when even for a static file your project get bigger, it can make a real bad problem for you. So in localhost 1818 API fighters list, as you can see, when we go on fighter list, we have a list of fighter, and another function we want inside fighter handler is to get fighter, or maybe no, get fighter, yes. Get fighter, and instead of getting all the fighters, I want to just return by ID. First, let's check from GPT, or how I read parameter from URL in a Go I can stop the video and get that, and also I know how to get that, but I continuously show how I search when I have problem for other developers who don't know how debug is done, so maybe it can help. For example, in here, as you can see, r equal to id is equal to r url query get. It gets from query, but I'm looking for some format like such a this format. So inside our main function, we have another fighter with id. That means after we write a fighter, we pass something like id in here and get fighter. And inside my function, it's a var id so in here I have id we need Golang max http and we have our id in here strconf for converting and list of fighter io that's great. Fighters is h dot fighter. Please, when you work on a project, make sure you have a good comment in here. Get id from url. Our id is here. We parse our id and find the fighter by URL. As you can see, the automate AI is doing that for me. But even if it don't make that, I can even if the English is not my native language, I can search from Google Translate or something like that, and that help other programmer who read my code can have a better understand from my code. So in here in is not null, we can't return, just use that line of code and say write fighter. If fighter found, return it. Try to encode fighter from JSON. So we get the fighter by ID in here. We try to parse the ID. Let's debug that. I think we have a, okay. So inside my fighters by list, as you can see, let's check that. No. As you can see, we have a fighter ID. Let's put the API behind that, and even the API version, if you're working on a real project, you can say API v2, API fighter by ID. Inside here, let's open another tab. If we put 1, as you can see, the ID is 1, name is Alexander, last name Volkanovsky, and for example 7, as you can see, we even don't know these guys, some of them. 7, as you can see, Israel, Sanya, who is that? I see this guy fights, but I really don't know by his name. Francis, for example, 8. But if we write something like 100, it don't show anything. Make sure you watch my video about error handling. I put this in next week. Thanks you for watching this video.